This video will give you important test reminders for our upcoming test on the Protestant Reformation. As you can see here, our test is scheduled for Monday, September 28th. You will open the test and there are 55 multiple choice questions. There's also one short answer question with 3 different parts. So this short answer will have a part A, B, and a C for you to answer. Remember to keep in mind your ACE strategy that we went over in your Renaissance test reminder information. You want to make sure that you are only using between 3 or 4 sentences per part, and you are being thorough with those 3 to 4 sentences. You're getting straight to the point and answering the question using specifics and details. This test will be timed for 45 minutes. That is plenty of time if you are properly prepared and know the material. Many of your multiple choice questions can be answered in 30 seconds or less if you are prepared, okay? So again, I strongly suggest you make sure that you know the material and you understand what your time limit is going into it so that you know you cannot spend a lot of time just sitting there on one question. Now, a couple things that you can do to prepare. Look over your highlighted material in your Protestant Reformation outline notes. That is the material that is considered the most important. So you'll definitely want to go back and look over a lot of the key people that we've gone over in this chapter, some of the events. Some of you are getting mixed up on certain people. I noticed that on our recent quiz. So go back and look over Luther. Go back and look over Charles V. Those are 2 completely different people who are known for, different things. And some of you are getting those 2 individuals mixed up. I would also suggest that you look over that contrasting Protestant and Catholic doctrine chart. This was posted on one of our Canvas pages many days ago. So if you were not in class to get a paper copy, you should be able to still print this out. So just go back and find that link if you truly want to print it out. I'm going to cut over to my copy of it so I can show you what I would focus on from the chart. So if you want to highlight your copy, then you might want to grab a highlighter at this point. So here's my copy of the chart, and I want to go through some of the most important parts that I would focus on if I were you when you study for this test. So you can see here we have contrasting beliefs between the Protestants and the Catholics, starting with the role of the Bible. The Protestants firmly believed that individuals can read the Bible themselves, whereas Catholics, and you might want to make a little note of this, rely on the clergy to read and interpret the Bible. So that is a major difference between what the Catholics believe and what the Protestants believe when it comes to interpretation of the Bible. So again, add out to the side of the Catholic chart, clergy is needed to read and interpret the Bible. All right, when it comes to a hierarchy within the church, the Catholics believe that there is a hierarchical order. The closer you are to the top, the more important you are within the church. So the Pope is at the top. Then you have cardinals, bishops, priests, and the believers are at the very bottom. Whereas the Protestants, specifically Luther brought this up, he wanted what was called a priesthood of all believers. So all individuals are equal in the eyes of God. So that's a big difference. No hierarchy with the Protestants versus a hierarchy in the Catholic Church. Anabaptists reject most forms of church governance in favor of congregational democracy. So again, that also emphasizes that there's not this hierarchy within the Anabaptists. They want everyone to participate in the decisions that take place within the church. I'm also stressing that you remember that the Anabaptists reject infant baptism. And you might want to make a little note out to the side. Lutherans, Calvinists, and Anglicans do not reject infant baptism. I'm going to repeat that again. Lutherans, Calvinists, and Anglicans do not reject infant baptism. Okay? Anabaptists do, but not those other three groups. So please make sure you remember that. Here, when it comes to sacraments practiced, the Catholics believe in all 7 sacraments, whereas it says most Protestants, they are focused more on communion, even though that is the most controversial. You might want to write out here to the side because I made a little note to myself. Luther believes communion and Baptist are the 2 valid sacraments. So again, Catholics practice 7. The Lutherans consider more of just 2, baptism and communion, the Eucharist being, of course, the most controversial. And you can see here that is explained next with consubstantiation versus transubstantiation. So we went over this in class, but here it is again on this nice little chart to help remind you the controversy surrounding the bread and the wine, which again is considered the Eucharist in a church service. Remember, Zwingli and Calvin saw this event, being the Lord's Supper of communion, as symbolic. Okay, so they tend to agree more with Luther. Remember this, or excuse me, no, they don't agree. That's the difference. They only view the communion as symbolic, whereas Luther says it does not change, but there is a spiritual presence, so what he calls a real presence. This is the main reason Zwingli broke from Luther. Remember, they could not agree on this one sacrament, communion, the Eucharist. Next, when it comes to salvation, there are differences between the Catholics and the Protestants. Catholics, it says here, salvation through living life according to Christian beliefs and participating in the practices of the church. That is what they refer to as good works. So I would make a note to yourself that they believe to achieve salvation, one must have faith and good works, the combination of the two, faith and good works. Whereas Lutherans believe in justification by faith. So again, faith alone can earn you salvation, according to Luther. Calvinists throw all of that out the window and believe in predestination. And it says a good life could provide a sign of predestined salvation. We call those individuals the visible saints or the elect. And if you look at the people who are very prosperous, thanks to their hard work, Calvin believes that that is a sign of the elect. On your next page, you will see a couple of more differences that I would recommend you go over in preparation for our test. When it comes to church and state, we see here Protestants, specifically the Lutherans and the Anglicans, believe the state should control the church, but that the government should not be a theocracy, which means run by religious leaders. Calvin and Zwingli did believe in a theocracy. So that's the difference between them and the Lutherans and the Anglicans. Anabaptists believe that the church is separate from the state. And remember, they are pacifists, so they should not have to go to war on behalf of the state. The Anabaptists aren't about, taking an oath to any person or country. And again, as a pacifist, they are very peaceful individuals and don't believe in going to war. Whereas the Catholics, they believe the state should be subservient to the state, which means the state is in control. Okay? They are absolutely in complete control. Last thing is marriage. Under Protestants, and it doesn't matter if you're talking about Lutherans, Anglicans, Calvinists, Anabaptists, all Protestants allow their clergy to get married, whereas the Catholics do not. Those clergymen take a vow of celibacy. So we've talked about that in class before, so make sure you know that that is a major difference. Let me make one quick clarification right here where it says Catholics believe states should be subservient to the state. I think I just completely overlooked the fact that that is a typo. Catholics believe that the state should be subservient to the church. Okay, so please make that correction. That would make a whole lot more sense. So obviously the Catholics view the church, specifically the Pope, as having ultimate authority, and so the state should obey what the Pope tells it to do. Remember, that should make sense to you because we even talked about how the French kings were beginning to question this and that they want more control over their churches and not the Pope to have so much control. So again, please make that correction. I do want you to study this correctly. Catholics believe the state should be subservient to the church. So obedient to the church, because the church has more power is what the Catholics are suggesting. So that wraps up my test reminders for our upcoming test. If you have any questions about the material that you are studying, you need something clarified, then please send me a message and I'll help you get through anything that you may be confused about. So good luck on your studying. And again, please reach out if you have any questions between now and Monday.